It happened on May 30th in Budapest, and the moment it did, everyone in football saw it coming. Arsenal's captain, Declan Rice, stood in the center circle of the Puskás Arena before one of the most watched penalty shootouts in Champions League history. The referee tossed the coin. Rice lost. Marquinhos chose which end the penalties would be taken. The referee tossed again. Rice lost again. Marquinhos chose who would shoot first. One team got everything. One team got nothing. PSG shot first, in front of their own supporters, in a wall of noise and color and partisan fury that no opposing player could ignore. Arsenal shot second, towards 17,000 PSG fans roaring behind the goalkeeper. Eberechi Eze missed. Gabriel Magalhaes blazed over the crossbar. The Champions League stayed in Paris. And somewhere in FIFA headquarters, a decision was quietly made. Because that night in Budapest didn't just break Arsenal's hearts, it broke open a debate that football's lawmakers could no longer afford to ignore. And what happened next, the speed of it, the audacity of it, the sheer unprecedented nature of it, has sent shockwaves through the world of football at the precise moment when 104 World Cup matches are already unfolding across 3 countries. Stay with us, because this story is about much more than a coin. It's about power, fairness, and whether football can fix its own flaws in real time while the entire world is watching. To understand why this rule change matters so deeply, you need to understand what a penalty shootout actually is, not as a spectacle, but as a psychological test of the most extreme kind. The players who walk from the center circle to the penalty spot at a World Cup are not simply performing a technical action, they are carrying the dreams of millions of people on a 20-yard walk that many of them will describe for the rest of their lives as the longest journey they have ever taken. Every external factor, the noise, the end of the pitch, the pressure of going first or second, the sight of the opposition scoring ahead of you, shapes what happens when they finally strike the ball. And for decades, football allowed pure chance to decide which team faced the worst combination of those factors, not tactics, not preparation, not experience, a coin. The history of that coin is longer than most people realize. The penalty shootout was formally adopted by FIFA in 1978. The very first one in World Cup history came 4 years later, in Seville, in the semifinal between West Germany and France at Spain 1982. A match that remains one of the greatest and most controversial in the tournament's history, ending 3 goals apiece after extra time, a game that had already produced a moment of brutal physicality when German goalkeeper Geraldo Schumacher went through France's Patrick Battiston without receiving so much as a free kick. West Germany won the shootout 4-5, and a new chapter of football drama was born. 44 years later, that shootout format has barely changed, until now. Under the rules that have governed every World Cup knockout match in living memory, the referee performs 2 separate coin tosses before the shootout begins. The first determines which end of the pitch the penalties are taken at. The second determines which team shoots first. The winner of each toss chooses, which means there is a precise 1 in 4 chance that any given team loses both tosses simultaneously, surrendering control of the most psychologically loaded sporting situation in football to nothing more than the spin of a metal disc. That exact scenario has happened at some of the most important matches in recent memory. It happened at Arsenal against PSG. Some studies have suggested that kicking first in a shootout gives a team a 22% higher chance of winning. An Academy analysis cited by The Times places the advantage even higher. If those figures are anywhere close to accurate, then a coin toss isn't just deciding a minor detail, it is significantly tilting the outcome of the most important moment in an entire season or an entire World Cup campaign before a single penalty has even been struck. And FIFA has decided that stops now.
The proposal, strongly backed by Pierluigi Collina, the man who is widely regarded as the greatest referee in the history of the sport and who now chairs FIFA's Referees Committee, is elegantly simple. One coin toss, not two. The winner chooses either to take the first penalty or which goal the shootout will be taken at. The loser receives whichever option remains. Both teams get something. Neither team gets everything. The double disadvantage, that cruel, structurally unfair scenario that handed PSG both advantages simultaneously in Budapest, can never happen again. But here is where the story becomes truly extraordinary. FIFA is attempting to push this rule change through not before a tournament, not between seasons, not after years of consultation and committee meetings. It is attempting to change the rules of football while the World Cup is already happening, mid-tournament. With the first round of 32 match scheduled to begin on June 28th, FIFA has submitted an urgent request to IFAB, the International Football Association Board, football's official lawmakers, to approve this amendment before Sunday's knockout opener kicks off. There is recent precedent for this kind of expedited process. Earlier in this very tournament, IFAB approved the so-called Vinicius rule mid-competition, banning players from covering their mouths during confrontational exchanges with opponents. That rule change, unusual as it was to implement during an active World Cup, was passed through IFAB on an accelerated timeline and applied almost immediately. But changing a penalty shootout procedure days before the knockout rounds begin is on a different scale entirely. It means every nation still in this tournament, every player, every goalkeeper, every captain must absorb a new set of rules during the most pressurized weeks of their footballing lives. Rules that will govern the single most emotionally devastating scenario any of them may face. Yet the statistical debate surrounding those rules is in itself fascinating and far from settled. While some studies point firmly to a first kick advantage, others have reached the opposite conclusion. A paper published in the Journal of Economic Psychology last year, examining 7,000 shootouts and 74,000 individual kicks, found no meaningful evidence that shooting first gives a team a better chance of winning. The author concluded that the apparent consensus was likely the result of limited sample sizes in earlier research.
And then there is Argentina. At the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, Lionel Messi's side went into their quarterfinal against the Netherlands and their final against France, shooting second in the shootout. They won both. Argentina lifted the trophy as the team that disproved the very advantage that this rule change is designed to prevent. So perhaps what FIFA is really addressing is not the statistics. Perhaps it is something simpler and more human than that. The feeling, the widespread, deeply held feeling among players, coaches, and fans that losing twice in a row before a single penalty has been taken is unjust. That sport should not work that way. That whatever advantage exists in going first or shooting toward your own supporters should at least be balanced across both teams. That feeling is not a statistic, but it is real, and it is powerful. Because consider what is at stake as the round of 32 begins. Nations that have spent 4 years, or in some cases a generation, building toward this tournament. Players for whom this match might be their only World Cup knockout appearance. Goalkeepers who will dive left or right based not just on preparation and instinct, but on whether 17,000 opposition supporters are screaming directly into their faces. In that context, the idea that the outcome might hinge, even fractionally, even statistically disputably, on which captain happened to call a coin correctly feels like something football should want to fix, even now, even at speed, even with the tournament already in full flow. There is, of course, an irony in all of this that no one at FIFA has publicly acknowledged. This is an organization currently under investigation across 4 American states for the fairness of its ticketing practices. An organization facing a formal European Commission complaint over the fairness of its pricing. An organization that spent months of this tournament answering questions about travel restrictions, flag policies, VAR decisions, and empty seats. And yet here it is, in the middle of all of that noise, moving at remarkable speed to ensure that a penalty shootout is slightly fairer for the captains of 32 competing nations. Whether or not IFAB approves the change before Sunday, the decision to pursue it sends a message. Football can change. Football can look at itself honestly and decide that something could be better. The coin that has been tossed twice before every World Cup shootout in living memory may be about to be tossed for the last time. And perhaps, in the strange, unpredictable, endlessly surprising story of this 2026 World Cup, the fairest moment of the tournament is the one still to come.